Well, I normally don't do this, but even though I messed up, let's start again. So as you know, I originally was supposed to release the next episode, number 1757, and we're going to be reviewing, of course, TNA. As you probably know, a lot of things took place. Joe Hendry continues his rivalry with, of course, Trick Williams, going back and forth either in NXT territory or TNA territory. And of course, Mr. Stone once again decides to undermine the authority of Santino Marella due to certain matches taking place. And then, of course, the main event features the TNA International Championship in a dog collar match. But also, as you know, battle lines are being drawn for the upcoming pay per view Under Siege. So we're going to go through all of that. Now, as you probably know, AEW Collision decided to have their show instead of a Saturday, they did it on a Thursday in Detroit, Michigan. So a lot of things took place in this particular match event. So plenty of things we're going to go for. We do see Kris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. What else we have? Let me look at my notes real quick because I know I saw it. Oh yeah, we have of course Ricochet versus Angelico, the Don Callis family, and the main event, of course, Daniel Garcia versus Dax the Axe Hardwood. So everything is gonna go nuts on this particular event. And then, of course, we cap up our episode with some news updates to give you guys updates on what's been happening in the world of pro wrestling, such as what events the promotions are thrown out, who's booked, what matches are set, including developments that are happening in the world of pro wrestling as we speak. So, let's get ready for another episode of Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Hey everyone, welcome to Deleted Wrestle Zone. All things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, TNA, National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J-Rod here. So, if you are new to the channel, welcome. This is a channel we do a lot of pro wrestling reviews from various promotions, not only here in the United States, but also in Japan, Mexico, Canada, Europe, the UK. Anywhere in the world pro wrestling is not as big, but it continues to grow. We also, of course, do discussion videos, talk about various topics such as the wrestlers themselves, the promotions, factions, storylines, whatever we want to talk about. We also, of course, do more news updates. If certain information was unable to be on this episode, we can either put it on the next one or on a separate video by itself. We also, of course, do real-time news updates to keep you guys on alert if something has happened in the world of pro wrestling that needs to be addressed ASAP. We also, of course, got the Unagi Sayaka Watch and various other cool wrestling content as well. So if you like what you see, please subscribe to us or click on that subscribe button. You'll be getting a lot of daily reviews and other cool wrestling content as well. But if you like this episode, please give us a like on the like button or a nice comment in the description down below. Now, enough with the yapping. It's time to get rocking. So let's begin, of course, with TNA. Okay, TNA. So it opened up, of course, with Trick Williams with the promo. Now, as you all know, he's been going back and forth, getting involved with Joe Hendry, our current TNA World Champion. Now, some of you may wonder what's been going on if you guys have not been keeping up. So let me give you the short version. As you know, Trick Williams has been for a while trying to regain the NXT Championship, but however, Joe Hendry, who was successful in retaining his championship in Rebellion, had a business proposition for Oba Femi, but however, Trick Williams had enough of people getting involved in business that he felt had no concern. So, Trick Williams decided to teach him a lesson, tried to show him not to get involved, and they've been going back and forth. Now, of course, he talked about Joe Hendry, the kind of person he is, and then Joe Hendry shows up, and all hell broke loose. So basically, that's what has been going on between those two. Now, Mr. Stone, as you all know, a week ago showed up and undermined the authority of Santino Marella because he felt that Santino's favoritism and making the entire TNA a mess decided to get involved. However, he was not happy with the result of what Santino did. He featured the main event, a dog collar match against, of course, Steve Macklin and Eric Young for the TNA International Championship. So he was not happy about the situation. But however, of course, he decided to focus his investment on Victoria Crawford, who, of course, out of nowhere was given the opportunity of the TNA Knockouts World Title without actually earning it. So he just gave it to her like a silver platter. So a lot of things has been going on, being questions like why is Santino Mr. Stone just acting like he runs the place and giving opportunities left and right without the opportunity to earn that spot. Now, our next match, our first official match, of course, is Rosemary versus Li Yingling. Now, this situation took place during, of course, Rebellion when Rosemary teamed up with Li Yingling and Xia Brookside to deal with Fatal Attraction, who's Fatal Influence, who's been nothing but a problem. However, Rosemary had to deal with Li Yingling the entire time. Of course, Xia Brookside was there in support of Li the entire time. But however, Rosemary, as you know, if you guys saw what happened in Rebellion, she was trying to persuade Xia Brookside to cross the line by using a brass knuckle. She refused to do so, but however, Rosemary decided to use that same brass knuckle onto Li again, but this time Xia Brookside got involved, took it from her, but it gave time for Li to apply the Thunderstruck, knocking her out. 1, 2, 3, done. Just like that, she picked up the win. Now, Mike Santana, as you know, he was just minding his business until he run into Trick Williams. However, he decided to talk to Sami Callahan along with, John Goblin, talking to him about his big match he had, of course, at Unbreakable. As you all know, Sami had that big match against, Mance Warner, and he showed him some respect. Despite the Sami doesn't appreciate respect from other people, but hearing from a guy like Santana kind of earned him that spot. However, they were both rudely interrupted by First Class, AJ Francis, and Casey Navarro. It seems that, of course, AJ is trying to recruit Sami, but Sami is not the type of person who wants to ride First Class. So, of course, Santana was like enjoying the kind of blabble that, of course, AJ was doing, but we'll see how that rolls out from there. Now, as you all know, recently, Ash and Heather, along with the little Chihuahua, decided to recruit Maggie Lee to put her part of their organization. So, after her loss, they decided to give her a makeover in hopes this will work things out for them. So, we'll see how it will happen next week. Now, our next match, we have tag team action. The Great Hands, as you know, they're of course concerned over the well-being of Mustafa Ali after losing to, of course, Mike Santana, but they have to face against the Aztec Warriors, Octagon Jr. and Laredo Kid. So that pretty much sets it up right there. Now, of course, the Great Hands are trying to do whatever it takes to bounce back after what the situation took place with Mike Santana, but unfortunately things didn't go well because Laredo Kid pinned John Skyler, while of course the Aztec Warriors were celebrating the big victory while they were attacked by Mustafa Ali, because apparently Mustafa Ali has felt that things did not go according to plan to prove his point against Mike Santana, so he just attacked him. However, he jumped into the match against, of course, Trey Miguel. Now, of course, the freaking cabinet, Tasha Steelz, the dumb hands were going to get involved, but luckily Zachary Wentz did his moment to help, but Mustafa felt that he had no business in doing it. And of course, there was going to be interference from those idiots. But until then, Mustafa Ali did a face plant. 1, 2, 3 is over. But I think the real question is, what is Mustafa Ali's going to do now? Because apparently during the post-match he was out of control. He decided John Skyler was enjoying what he was seeing. But sooner or later, someone's going to give Mustafa Ali a little taste of his own medicine. So we'll see what happens from here on out with Mustafa Ali. Now, Steve Maclin, earlier in the entire programming, he was in fact attacked once again by Eric Young and the Northern Armory. So he talked about, of course, his match against him by defending the International Championship in a dog collar match. So we know those type of matches are brutal, they're bloody murder. So we'll see how the soldier, the bulletproof, actually survives. Now the Hardys, as you probably know, they have been not in a great mood ever since losing the TNA Tag Team titles against the Menace Brothers. However, they decided, okay, so we lost. So this is the perfect opportunity start from the bottom, working our way from the top. But however, of course, their little promo was interrupted by the Menace Brothers, our current TNA World Tag Team Champions, to try to get in under their skin. However, of course, Santino Marella decided to lay down the law. Now, apparently there was supposed to be a rematch between these two teams, but due to circumstances, they wanted this match to take place in Canada, but due to Jeff Hardy's situation, it's unable to do so. So Jeff Hardy gets an opportunity to take on Nick Bennett next week. However, in the Under Siege event, which is going to be of course, in Canada, Santino Marella gave the opportunity for Matt Hardy to pick a partner of his choosing. So, of course, Matt is going to try to figure out who could be the next person. Now, Victoria Crawford, as you know, made her debut in TNA, facing off Brittany Brooks. For those who don't know, she is the real-life girlfriend of Chris Bay. And of course, Mr. Stone was there, but he actually explained why he was given this opportunity to become like another person to undermine the authority of Santino. He said that he has connections with the upper management of TNA. So that's what gave him the thing. Now, of course, Victoria Crawford, we all know how she is. She's been in the business for almost 20 years and basically picked up the win when she applied the axe kick. However, during the promo, Masha Slavic showed up to teach her a lesson, but unfortunately Tessa Blanchard showed up, who still has her sights set, of course, on the TNA Knockouts World title. But Santino decided that next week Tessa and Victoria were going to be teaming up, and Masha will pick a partner of her choosing. However, Mr. Stone, who still continues to undermine Santino, say, no, Masha is not going to pick up the partner. I'm going to pick her. Now, some of you may question, what is his beef towards Masha Slavic? Simple. He thinks that someone like Masha Slavic doesn't deserve to be like the face of TNA because of her violent streak, how she is. I mean, she fought her way through. So he's saying that someone like her shouldn't be the TNA Knockouts World Champion. So, but the real question is, who's going to be her partner? I'm sure it's going to be someone that's either going to go up against Masha or someone who, of course, has a history with her. Who knows? Whatever that idiot Stone's going to do, we'll find out. Now we jump into our main event, the TNA International Championship in a dog collar match. We have Eric Young and, of course, our current champion, Steve Maclin. So, as you know, these two guys go way back. But however, this whole situation between these two happened when Eric Young took control of the Northern Armory when they kicked out Josh Alexander. But of course, Eric Young feels that Steve Maclin should have been by his side to join the Northern Armory. But of course, Steve Maclin decided, I'm going to walk the road alone. And that's exactly what he was trying to do. However, Eric Young was not going to let that go, so he continues to attack him plenty of times. But the dog collar match, it was freaking brutal like always. I mean, blood everywhere, But however, of course, the Northern Armory was going to get involved, but they got their asses handed to them by, of course, Steve Maclin. But Steve Maclin was able to take out, of course, Eric Young with the KIA, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, he retained the championship. So we'll see what happens next week because, of course, it's not over. But I did state earlier, battle lines are being drawn for the upcoming Under Siege event. So we're going to follow up on that possibly next week. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we are done with TNA. Let's move on with AEW Collision. Okay, our last review, AEW Collision. Now, of course, as you all know, recently it happened on a Thursday rather than a Saturday. But not to worry. Now, we opened up with Toni Storm, who was at the box seats doing her little promo. Now, of course, Toni Storm is keeping an eye out in the finals of the Owen Hart Cup tournament between Mercedes Moné and Jamie Hayter. However, she is now looking for new challengers. While this is happening, she wants to focus on trying to see who will take her out before whoever walks out as the winner of the Owen Hart Cup tournament. So she's saying, make a line. So we'll see what that happens. Now, we did see Paragon, as you know, talking. As you probably know, last week, or was it Wednesday? Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong lost the 2 out of 3 fall match against FTR. They often considered themselves one of the best, but they are willing to admit that maybe things didn't go exactly like they would have hoped for, but they're willing to work on themselves until they were rudely interrupted by, of course, the Grizzled Young Vets, who decided to say all this and that. But, of course, those two teams will clash with each other soon enough. So we'll stay tuned for that. Our next match, we have Angelico versus Ricochet, of course. Now, Ricochet, as you know, with this whole thing with him being on edge, acting like a total jackass for what he's been doing, well, there was a moment, of course, he chased Serpentico with the chair in order to prove his point. But Ricochet was able to take out Angelico with the spirit gun, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, over. However, of course, he decided to put out a talking to Mike post-match promo, talked about, of course, how people were booing him. But later he got in the face with a guy named Zach Gowen. Now, for those who don't know who he is, Zach Gowen, many of you may know him from years ago. He was this one wrestler who wrestled with one leg. He even teamed up with Mr. America, aka Hulk Hogan. So anyway, of course, he got in the face. Security tried to stop Ricochet from getting involved because Zach was with his family, with his kids. But of course, someone had to teach him a lesson. Zach tried to get involved, but he got himself in a nasty situation. And of course, Ricochet took his prosthetic leg, being the prick that he is, so he just walked away with it. Now, our next match, we have the Don Callis family, Kyle Fletcher, Lance Archer, Rocky Romero, and Trent Beretta taking off the Outrunners and 2 partners of their choosing. So they chose AR Fox and, of course, the Ring of Honor World Champion Bandito. Now, I have to say, the Outrunners, AR Fox, and Bandito were able to succeed and try to really cohesion as they did. And they really did. However, of course, with, of course, the aggression what the Don Callis were all about, well, let's just say that they didn't do well because there was a new move that was created by both Rocky and Trent when they applied this thing called the Jackal Driver onto AR Fox. And, of course, Trent picked up the win. 1, 2, 3, over. Just like that. Now, our next match, we have Anthony Bowens taking on Lee Johnson. As you know, Bowens has been making headways as a singles competitor now that he is no longer part of the with the Acclaim along with Max Caster. But of course, Lee Johnson was not alone. He had Blake Christian. Of course, Blake Christian was going to get involved, but it didn't work out their way because apparently Lee Johnson got the mollywop, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. However, in post-match, Blake Christian tried to attack him, but Billy Gunn decided to step up and to show him not to mess with them. And then, of course, he tossed him out of the ring and told him to suck it. Just like that. Let's see how things will roll up from there. Now, and recently, as you know, the Gates of Agony have been showing up recently in AEW. As you know, they've been going through different stages, championship matches, and all that. However, they are now in war with Big Bill and Brian Keefe, so all hell broke loose when these two teams collided once again out in the ring. So we don't know what's going to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if those guys would end up in Double or Nothing or so. So we'll see. Now, our next match is Kris Statlander versus Willow Nightingale. Now, this whole thing began, of course, as you all know, Kris and Willow have been really good friends until Kris Statlander just stabbed her in the back. This is during the time when Stokely Hathaway was her manager. But unfortunately, of course, Kris Statlander just, went back to her old self, tried to apologize to Willow, but Willow was like, I understand that. She feels like, look, I'm done with you. I'm moving on. But Kris was feeling like, no, we need to settle this right now. However, the match was doing good, pretty well. I mean, you would have thought, but however, it seems that someone decided to ruin the party, and that is the Death Riders, of course. Wheeler Yuta showed up with distracting ref, giving time for Marina Shafir to choke out Willow Nightingale, and then just like that, and then of course Kris Statlander took her out with the Thursday Night Fever, and just like that, it was over. I don't know if Kris was aware that her match was over, did not go was interrupted without realizing. I'm sure Willow's not going to care about that match because she's going to get her hands on Marina Shafir one way or the other. Now, our next match, of course, we have the other members of the Don Callis family, Josh Alexander, Takeshita, to take on the Dark Order, Reynolds, and Uno. Now, this team in particular with the Don Callis family will deal with Hangman Page and Will Ospreay. So that pretty much is like a preview. And of course, that snake of the grass, what's his name, Don Callis, gets involved. But Josh Alexander was the one who picked up the win by applying the C4 spike onto Reynolds, and just like that, 1, 2, 3, it was over. Now, our next match, we have Mike Bailey taking on Dralistico. Now, I'm not sure if this was a bit of payback to send a message to Rush. For those who don't know, Rush attacked Mike Bailey's tag partner and friend, Kevin Knight. Rush blamed Kevin Knight for costing him the $100,000 that he was going to be involved in, but Mike Bailey is dealing with Rush's little brother. So basically, you probably can guess there's going to be a lot of mayhem going up and a bit of a digression. But luckily, Mike Bailey prevailed by applying a spinning heel kick, knocking him out. 1, 2, 3, done. Now on to our main event. We have Daniel Garcia versus Dax Harwood. Now, we all know the relationship between both Garcia and FTR. They were like good mentors to them until they decided to be all bitches for what they are. But Daniel Garcia was not falling in line for what they're doing. I mean, they turned their backs on Copeland, and of course, this. And then, of course, there was a moment where, of course, they went up to the commentary booth and got in the face of Nigel McGuinness. But of course, things got out of hand when Nigel McGuinness decided to get involved. And then, of course, because Stokely was distracting the ref. And then, of course, we did see, what's his name, Cash Wheeler get involved. And then Daddy Magic gets involved too. So basically, the match was thrown. I'm going to presume that it was a no contest type of situation. So I haven't looked up the result on that yet. But hopefully that was the case. But that's pretty much what happened, of course, at the end of the entire show in Collision. So we'll see what happens this coming Wednesday, and then of course the following Collision course next week. So stay tuned for that. But as of right now, we are done with all the reviews. Let's move on with our last and final thing, news updates. Okay, so our news updates. So let's begin, as always, with upcoming events with the promotions. As always, we have the GCW stuff all together, so let's start with that. As you probably know, on the 17th of May in Maryland, for Big Time, the GCW Tag Team titles will be defended. Jordan Oliver and Alec Price will defend them against Davey Bang and August Matthews. Then, of course, they'll be making their appearance in Arkansas for Little Banging in Little Rock, and they confirm wrestlers who were signed for this one: Effie, Billy Starks, Acticus Coker, Mayu Yamashita, Joey Janela, and more names will be announced. Then, of course, 2 days later in Kansas City, Missouri, they announced the Take a Picture event. They announced Matt Cardona, Masha Slamovich, Jonathan Gresham, Matt Warner, and Mayu Yamashita. So practically, that's pretty much it for the GCW. Now, as you know, we'll be coming closer to the upcoming Corkin Hall event, featuring, of course, the Stardom event. We have the full card on this one. Let me pull it up real quick on this phone, so that way you guys can get a clear idea what's going on. Here it is. Okay, so this is what's going on. Come on, hurry up. Here we go. Okay, as you know, the main event features the red belt. Saya Kamitani will defend the championship against Sayaka Kurara, who actually issued this challenge after winning, of course, the Cinderella tournament. The CML Japan Women's Championship will be defended. Yuvia will defend her belt against Mei Sita, our current high-speed champion. Starlight Kid Miyu Amasaki, better known as Neo Genesis, team up with Diana's very own Aruka Umasaki, as you know, who's close friends with Starlight Kid. They take on, of course, Hate, consistent of Konami, Rina, and Raka. As you all know, these three ladies stole the artist belts, so that makes perfect sense. Shuri will be once again facing someone she faced before, Aya Sakura. As you know, before she ever joined Cosmic Angels, well, she faced her before, and now they're doing it again. So we'll see how much Aya Sakura has grown up since then. We have, of course, Stars team up after the first time ever since Mayu Iwatani left Stardom. We have Hanan, Azuki, Koguma, Saya Ida, and Momo Kogo teaming up to take on God's Eye's very own Saki Kashima, Rana Yagami, Hina Kyoka, Kotatsu, and Tomoka Inaba. Then we got the Cosmic Angels, Sayuri Anu, Natsupoi, Yuna Mizumori take on the other members of Hate, consistent of Natsuko Tora, Azusa Inaba, and Fukigen Death. And then, of course, we have the members of EXV, consistent of Waka Tsukiyama, Hanako, and Rian. They will team up with Yuri Him, who is not officially a member yet. They will face against the newly formed faction of Suzuki Mi Vida Loca, which translates me My Crazy Life, Suzuki, Rina Yamashita, Izuki Aoki, and of course Akira Kurogane. So basically, that's the card for this coming Sunday, I believe. Now, as you know, we got the NWA Crockett Cup taking place on the 17th of May. Two new entrants have been announced for this tournament, for the tag team tournament. We have Temple of Dune, consistent of Stone Rockwell and Beastman. And then another team, Mike Mondo and Slade. As you know, we have the collaboration event between Prestige Wrestling, West Coast Pro, and Deadlock Pro Wrestling. It was confirmed now that this event will take place on June 1st. They confirmed now that the West Coast Pro tag team belts will be defended. Cowboy, consistent of One Call Matters and Thomas Shire, will defend their belts against Sinner and Saint, Judas Ikara, and Travis Williams. And then finally, MLW will be making the return to Chicago for the Cicero Stadium for Lucha Apocalypto, taking place on the 15th of November. So yes, that's pretty much what we do. Now let's jump into some developments here, so that way we all can understand what's going on here. Let me pull up some stuff. Okay, Jakara Jackson, as you all know, recently she was released from WWE. She was one of the recent releases that took place. However, the real question many of you may ask, what's next for her? Well, she posted on her X account a picture of the World of Stardom Championship, the red belt. Now, what is that indication? Various people are now thinking she may most likely maybe want to go to Japan. So that most likely. Now, some of you may think, wait a minute, wouldn't she go to Mighty Gold to do so? I mean, yeah, Mighty Gold would pick her up, but for whatever reason she chose Stardom. I can't tell her she should go with Mighty Gold. It's her choice, guys. It's her perspective. Many of you may heard recently, as you know, the Good Brothers were recently been released from WWE a while back. Well, it was announced that they re-signed with New Japan Pro Wrestling. So there has been rumors circulating that they will be teaming up with the Bucks to face the War Dogs in Resurgence. So stay tuned for that. Indi Hartwell, as you know, many people have been showing some interesting criticism towards her because of her choice of promotion she chose to go in. Now, many of you know she is signed with TNA. Some people are speculating that her going with TNA, it's her way of trying to get back with WWE. However, Indi Hartwell clarified, no. I'm not using TNA to find my way back to WWE. No, she's saying that this has nothing to do with that. She's not planning on going in that route. But of course, it's not off the table for her to, of course, um, possibly one day in the future to return to WWE. So right now she wants to focus on herself, try to uh, evolve and grow more. Like if that ever comes for her to return to WWE, so that's one of the things we know. Now I cannot remember if I actually report this one. Riley Osbourne, as you all know, was recently released from WWE as well. However, there were people that made this condescending, saying the only reason he was released was because he refuses to go to work with Evolve. Now, Riley Osbourne clarified that that wasn't the case. He basically he wanted to take some time off to be with his wife. Many of you know her, B Priestley, or as you know her in WWE, Blair Davenport. So basically, that was the case. But of course, he was a good worker. Not gonna lie about that. But from what he said, that had nothing to do with it. So of course, we don't know where he's gonna land. There's many been talk. Recently, as you all know, Chi Chi from Evolution was took a leave of absence due to the fact that she was injured. Um, they just announced, of course, Evolution, that she'll be making her return in the of course on June 1st, celebrating Suwama's debut anniversary show. So we're looking forward. Now, the reason she was out, because according to this, she had a thoracic compression fracture. So basically, they had to treat it as soon as possible. So can't wait to hear from her again and see what's next to go on. Mayu Iwatani, two things have come around when she was being interviewed in Tokyo Sports, in case anybody asked. People were showing criticism about her leaving from Stardom to, of course, Mighty Gold, and this is what she said. Even if 90% of the voices are supportive, I'm still the 1% of criticism that hurts. To be honest, I was scared until I stepped into the ring at Corking Hall, because people said like they're disappointed that I value the IWGP Women's Championship that gone down, but when I heard the voices of other fans who supported me, I realized that I didn't need to worry about anything. So basically, they're treating, saying that she didn't value that she valued the title more, but the problem is she was in a deal she couldn't get out. Sunny Gutierrez mentioned that she was involved as the champion, but also working on the Runaway Wrestler project, which is the biopic of her life. So that was the reason she made the choice. She couldn't get out of her commitments with Stardom until she made the decision to leave. Now, however, Mayu Iwatani, as you know, she'll be facing someone who used to be part of Stars prior, before Mighty Gold was ever launched, Yuzuki, who now goes by Victoria Yuzuki, and this is what she said. I think she has grown a lot since our last singles match, and I have heard from people around me that Yuzuki is working real hard. However, I have seen Yuzuki copying my moves a lot. Well, I guess I'm happy for that, but the three-stage moonsault press, I've never done that myself, so I thought I just copy it a bit and try to win. I like the impersonations. Now, there have been some people that recently talked about Yuzuki may have copied the moves of Mayu Iwatani, which of course she said that she wants to be the future ace of Stardom, so being a Mighty Gold. So that was the whole case. Now, finally, our last development here. Many of you know this Yoshi wrestler, Yuki Mashiro, who in fact many of you know her from Ice Ribbon, then went to freelancing. Well, apparently she won a tournament recently for Lucha Fiesta Fest in Ryogoku. Apparently she'll be making her trip to Mexico for the first time, so she's very excited for this. I know that in the past there have been wrestlers who from Japan that will love to travel to Mexico and get involved. I'm not sure if her involvement will be in result of the Grand Prix that will be taking place later on in the year. So if that's the case, then we'll see what happens. If they are planning to bring her for that, that's something we will pay attention to. We already saw that with many wrestlers in Japan, with many of the Yoshi wrestlers involved in that. So as of right now, we are officially done with everything. So let's call it a day. Okay, so I hope everybody enjoys this episode. Now I apologize for this because I was stupid. I didn't realize that I deleted the footage that I recorded it, but I decided I had to do it. I already had the notes, everything, so there was no going back. So I figured I had to do it now. But the next episode will feature, of course, Ring of Honor and New Japan's resurgence. So I'm excited for that. I decided to keep it short because of my timing here in Santa Barbara. I'm only here for the weekend, guys, in case anybody asks. So yes, I'm in a motel in Santa Barbara. Now I'm not disclosing where I'm at right now because I don't want people stalking me. But if anybody from the Santa Barbara area who are my subscribers see me around, feel free to say hi. But as of right now, I'll see you guys the next time. So, I must bid all of you adieu. So, goodbye. And have a nice day. Bang.